What's up, suckers? I'm back. It's me. Before we get into the video, just wanted to let you guys know that my mini course, Get That Thing Done, is now available to everyone to take. It is a mini course that is pre-recorded, so you can watch it whenever you want. It has a bunch of printable and physical materials that you can use to go ahead and work through whatever questions you have while you're taking the class. And it's only an hour, but it's cut into chunks. So you don't necessarily have to listen to me ramble for an hour long, and you can still learn tools that you will need over and over again to help you work through when you're stuck from executive dysfunction. So if that is something that sounds good to you, if you have been stuck a lot lately and you're really trying to understand how to get out of it, this is a great class for you. You can go to the link in the description and take the class. So yeah, with that, let's get on with the video. Hey everyone, so I have been doing a lot of work lately with mornings and trying to figure out how to best budget my energy. And I feel like my mornings are pretty on point, so I thought I would go through with you the best ways to put together an ADHD morning routine. But before I start that, hi, if you're new here, and if you're not, hi anyway. I am Ariana. I am an ADHD coach. I started out as a, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, blogger, influencer, writer, whatever. And I have since become very well acquainted with ADHD, especially as it is connected to productivity. So I work a lot with people who are trying to get things done, and it kind of naturally takes us down the road towards self-acceptance, towards mindset changes, and towards kind of re-understanding what productivity means for people with ADHD. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, if you'd really like to continue to learn more from me, make sure that you like and subscribe. That helps me find new people. It helps new people find me, and that just fills my Grinchy heart like so much. Yeah. Anyway, so let's get on to what makes the perfect ADHD morning routine. What do I mean by perfect ADHD morning routine, by the way? When I am saying perfect, I am not saying that what you do now is bad. I'm not saying that there are no other ways to do this. These are all pretty general ideas, but if you see me mentioning any one particular food or one particular time, and you work night shift so you can't get up at the time that I'm talking about, or you can't eat that food, I can't believe that I have to say this in this day and age, but you really have to be very explicit when you say things. Obviously, you don't have to do that thing. So if I'm saying wake up at 6 and you work till 6, obviously I'm not telling you to wake up at 6. If I'm talking about eating eggs and you don't eat eggs, obviously I'm not talking about eating eggs, okay? These are examples. And I want to make sure that we just understand that I am not trying to put down any one way that anybody does anything. This is just conceptually what should help ADHD brains. Okay? So the first thing that you will need to make sure that you have a great day is breakfast. And I know that a lot of people right now are probably doing the jerk off motion because we are told all the time, eat breakfast, eat breakfast. And it's like, yeah, that sounds easy, except not, because a lot of us skip breakfast. And why do we skip breakfast? We don't skip breakfast just because we're not hungry. As a matter of fact, a lot of us are hungry. We just might not notice because we're busy, because we're still tired, because our medication is covering up that feeling of hunger, or because the number of choices is overwhelming. And since it's overwhelming, it becomes very, very difficult for us to decide what to eat. So we get super freaked out about the concept of trying to figure out what the hell we're going to eat. And suddenly a Pop-Tart sounds good, or toast, or something that's not going to take a lot of energy and a lot of time. So we don't tend to eat. And we're probably told in way too many, way too many articles that if we would eat breakfast, we would just feel better. And that's true, but it's also kind of oversimplified. So here's what I say about this whole breakfast thing. It is true that we need to be eating in the morning. We need to. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Countless studies have shown that we are going to get the bulk of the fats and carbohydrates and proteins that we're going to need to keep going throughout the day during breakfast. We're not supposed to get them during lunch or dinner. And so breakfast is important, especially since, unfairly might I add, the world is very diurnally based, which is the opposite of nocturnal. So if you are a person who does not do well during the day and you tend to prefer to be awake at night, society just doesn't tend to want to lean in your direction in most places. And that can be super frustrating. It can make it so that it's like, okay, but like when I first wake up in the morning, I'm not in the mood. I just want like coffee and I want a donut, and I don't have time to make like 3-course meals or 4-course meals. And I'm not at all saying that that's what you need to do. What I am saying is that whatever little bit you eat, even if you don't eat a ton, needs to have what you need to process during the day. Now, this is actually a perfect time to bring up the fact that I am about to run a series next month where I am going to be sitting with 3 amazing nutritionists, and we are actually going to be talking about ADHD and nutrition and how those things connect and what that can do for your brain and your body. Because even though I've been learning a lot about nutrition and ADHD myself, that can also be a very personalized thing. And also, I'm not a doctor and I don't like to talk about shit I don't know anything about. So these people will be here. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things regarding the connections between nutrition and ADHD. So those are going to be great. And then at the end, I'm hoping to have a pretty good list of some possible meals that you can use for yourself that will hopefully help you get a little bit more acquainted with easier meals that still give us what we need as ADHDers. So back to the breakfast thing. The reason why breakfast is so important is like I said, we're in a diurnal society, and in our diurnal society, most of us are getting up in the morning, whether we're morning people or not, to get started with our day. And we're expected to do a lot. And so we need those nutrients to help us out getting that stuff done. There's also the fact that breakfast is the perfect time for us to stock up on the important vitamins and minerals that we may not be getting quite as much of. It's actually been found in a couple of studies that ADHD brains actually may not have quite as much zinc, vitamin D, omega-3 fatty acids, protein as others may need. So it's actually been found that making sure that you give yourself plenty of protein not only helps with energy, but can also help to control some of those ADHD symptoms, including hyperactivity. Same with zinc, even though the connection to zinc and hyperactivity apparently is pretty tenuous, so at your own risk here. Omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin C, even though I will say vitamin C can interfere with medication, so if you're going to take the vitamin C, probably want to take that closer to at night, or at least from what I've seen, at least 2 hours after you've taken your medication. Up to you. But point being, there are a lot of vitamins and minerals that we may be missing, and breakfast is probably the best time to get those things to get you ready for the day. And so that can be the perfect time to eat things like eggs, or to eat oatmeal, or to even just have a protein shake, even though you probably don't want to do that just for breakfast too many times. But it's the perfect time for you to stock up for the day on the nutrients and the vitamins that you are going to need. Because the fact is, a lot of our brain function, just as human beings, relies on that. And even more so for people whose brains are constantly running, like ours. We need to have something to help that race get done without us losing that energy mentally and physically. So after you have figured out the breakfast thing, the second thing that you need in your morning routine is a plan. And I know how hard it is to have a plan, because a lot of us, would have to take the time to plan something. But there is a reason for this. ADHD brains don't do so well when there is no plan. We just don't. If you've ever had a vacation that you've been on from work or from school, and you've noticed that during that vacation, despite the fact that beforehand you were like, I want to get all my writing done, I want to get a lot of reading done, I want to run, I want to start doing this again, I want to start doing that again, and then the break ends and you find that you sat on your ass almost the entire time. And I know I've had them, I know you've had them, because there was no set plan. It's one thing to say that you want to get things done. It's another to have it planned out. Does this mean that you have to have like a whacked out end-to-end plan for your day? No, not every day. You can absolutely make it so that you just have like maybe one or two things planned for the day and the rest of the day is open. But having a plan is the best way to help your brain know where it's going next. And if you're like, okay, when the hell am I supposed to find time to make a plan? I say better half-ass than no-ass, okay? So if you are like, the only time that I have to write down any sort of plan is while I'm brushing my teeth, and that's like 2 minutes, and it means I'm only gonna write one or two things, great, write those one or two things. If you're like, the only time that I can think to do it is the night before, do it the night before. Just keep in mind that when you look at that plan the following morning, it may have to be tweaked or changed depending on what's going on, but try to have it written down what you want to do, what you plan to do, and if you can, add times. If that's not really too possible because your day is constantly flexible, great, that's fine. Maybe try to say morning, afternoon, and evening and say I'm going to do this in the morning, this in the afternoon. But what planning does for an ADHD brain is, first, as I mentioned, it gives you what that next step must be. It also helps your brain to figure out what energy it can expect to expend for the day. I always am afraid to use the word intentions because there are a lot of people out there who don't understand ADHD and are like, you have to live intentionally. And, it generally means that like the reason that you're not getting anything done is because you're not trying. And I want to make it clear that that is not at all what is going on here. What I am saying, though, is that letting your brain know that you are intending to do something subconsciously tends to help out with making sure that you've got that little bit of energy left to get that thing done. So you want to make sure that you've got a plan on hand. If you can, try to connect writing down your plan with something that you do every morning anyway. Breakfast, for example, or, drinking your coffee, or if you sit and, Wordle or play some game on your phone, maybe make it so that before you play that game, you write things out, even if it's just 1 to 3 things. Generally, I suggest that you only focus on 3 things anyway, so that's a perfect number. And since we're talking about, energies and stuff like that, when you are writing out your plan, while the rest of the world may not always plan according to your ultradian rhythm, you do that. You plan according to your ultradian rhythm. And for those of you who are just joining me who have maybe never heard that term before, an ultradian rhythm is how your energy ebbs and flows throughout the day. So we have our circadian rhythm, which is how we sleep, when we feel tired versus when we feel awake. The ultradian rhythm is how our energy ebbs and flows throughout the day. Not necessarily when we start feeling sleepy and need a nap, but how we feel in terms of physical readiness to do things, mental readiness to do things. Those things change. throughout the day. So try to plan according to that. If you know that you're not a fucking morning person and that like trying to do anything before 10 a.m. is asking for trouble, if you don't have to do it, try to pick things that are either more physically taxing or aren't really all that taxing at all. Checking your emails, answering phone calls, things like that. And then when you get to that time where you know that your brain turns on, that's when you want to do the really heavy lifting. So I've talked about this in a video before, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but just make sure that whatever you're planning is mindful of how your energy ebbs and flows. And also, when you're making this plan, try to make sure that you're including the rest of your meals in your plan for the day. And I say this as a person who still sometimes makes this mistake, even with what I know. When you are writing your plan, try to make sure that you are including lunch, that you're including dinner. Reason being, if you don't put it on paper, if you don't put it in front of your face, it's really, really easy to get overtaken by that hyper focus that kicks in. And the next thing you know, you're like, oh fuck, it's 2 and I never ate lunch. That's why I'm tired and angry. So try to make sure that you are including meals in your plan. Again, it's about making sure that your brain knows that you intend to eat. And the last thing that I would bring up is make sure that there's an end time to your day. And if you don't work for yourself, if you work for someone else, this is simple, right? You just kind of say, okay, well, by 5, I'm planning to do whatever, by 6 or whatever time you get off of work. But if you are the kind of person who works for yourself or you don't really have set hours, make sure that your plan has an end time. The reason that I say this, of course, is because of hyperfocus. If you hyperfocus too hard and you don't have something in front of you mentally telling you, hey, you got to be done with this by 2 or 3 or 4, you're going to catch yourself, I almost fell, you're going to catch yourself losing the rest of your day. And one thing that you definitely want to try to include in your plan, if you can, is time for yourself. So you don't want to lose that to hyperfocus. And that time for yourself, by the way, again, I feel like when we say these things, sometimes people feel that it's like, it's got to be 110%. If I'm putting in time for myself, that means that I got to have like an hour or 2. I mean, yeah, if you want. But if you don't have that option, 30 minutes is fine. 10 minutes is fine. It really doesn't have to be anything heavy hitting. It doesn't have to be a warm bath or something. It can literally just be, I just want 10 minutes to sit with nobody asking me anything, and I want to read bullshit on Reddit. Time for yourself. It's important, okay? If you can fit it in, where you can fit it into that plan. The last thing that you need for a perfect ADHD morning is a supportive setup. And I'm sure that people are kind of like, well, what the fuck does that mean? I'm gonna tell you, supportive setup is basically making sure that what you are putting together, where you work, the place that you sit every day or where you head to every day is going to support that ultradian rhythm and your motivation for the day. So for example, if you were the kind of person who needs sunshine, I'm one of those people, I need sunshine, and you live in a place that is mostly rainy, you are going to want to make sure that you have a setup that includes some sort of UV light or that pushes you towards some sort of lighting. If you can't do that, you want to make sure that it's going to be a spot that's going to allow you to, stand up and walk around a lot. You're going to want to make sure that wherever you are is mostly free of distractions, but that still has things for you to fidget and play with. You want to make sure that that location has water nearby so that when you're thirsty, you're going to reach for it when your hands are idle. You want to make sure that there are plenty of notepads and things like that around, or a whiteboard or something for you to write down important things that come to you that you will be able to look at over and over again all throughout the day. Basically, when you have your morning coffee or morning tea, morning run, good for you, whatever it is, you want to make sure that when you're done, you sit down to a spot that is made for your particular needs, your particular brain, and your particular rhythm. So hopefully that has been helpful, and it's going to help you kind of figure out what your ADHD routine should look like. Again, I'm not going to bring up important times to get up because that changes from person to person. I am not going to tell you what to eat for breakfast because A, I want to do a little bit more research into the right things to eat for breakfast, and B, again, we're all different. And I'm also not going to suggest exercise necessarily, and let me explain why. I'm not suggesting exercise because that also depends on your ultradian rhythm. Exercise is important, and I know that there are people out there who would probably be like, where the fuck is the exercise? Why aren't you telling us to work out in the mornings? Because your ultradian rhythm has something to do with that. If I tried to work out in the morning, I tried that once, actually. I tried a yoga workout and I got like 10 minutes in and I was like, yeah, I killed it. I'm done. And then the woman was like, let's do that again. And I was like, fucking what? Like, no, like I can't. I could not get into the groove. I couldn't focus. It actually kind of made me feel a little bit more tired by lunch. So working out in the morning isn't really necessarily a part of an ADHD routine. For me, it's better to work out or walk around or do yoga or whatever in the afternoon because that's when I have my dip. For some people, it could be right before bed. It really is going to depend. So if you would like to include that in your morning routine, I 100% think you should. But again, that's going to go back to planning according to your ultradian rhythm. Okay? So thanks very much for being here. I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please like and subscribe. Feel free to take that mini course. The link is in the description. Drink some water, take care of yourselves, and have an amazing rest of the day. I'll see you in the next video.